While futurists and analysts can dish out some exciting or downright scary visions for the future of technology, we need to remember there are no future facts. Recently, we have seen how something as simple as a virus can absolutely disrupt even the most carefully created plans. Even if there are no future facts, uncertainty will present opportunities. To explore those near future opportunities, we have gathered today some channel leaders for a conversation. This is a group that keeps its feet to the ground, but its eyes firmly on the opportunities of the future. We'll start by getting to know each of the panel members, and I will ask each of you to introduce yourselves. And I would also ask you to share one tech innovation or opportunity you believe channel companies are overlooking. Let's start today with Ted.
Hi, my name's Ted Malucci. I'm the president at Smart One Solutions. I took a path of entrepreneurship after an almost 30-year career as the CIO for a large real estate developer, so that's been interesting. The biggest opportunity that I believe is overlooked is that of collaboration. Just as we talk about network effect, that, one person in a network, as soon as there's a second, we increase the value. As soon as there's a third, we further increase the value. And I think that's very true with a lot of the technologies and the innovations, specifically when we get to AI. The more data sets, the more things you combine together, the greater the value creation is. And I still think that there's a need in the industry for more collaboration, more openness, more companies realizing that they're not able to do everything. And by combining offerings, we can create something that's even more powerful and more valuable to the end user.
I'm Robert Lee, and I'm the Director of IT for Ingram Micro Canada. I've been with Ingram for over 20 years, and I can tell you that a lot has changed from a technology perspective during my time here. The question of innovation or opportunities, it's an interesting one. I think in this day and age, the investments in technology has probably increased over year, and companies already know how valuable this can be. Emerging technologies for things like AI and RPA, machine learning to blockchain will be things to leverage and how they can be incorporated to enhance functions within an organization. Streamlining processing functions, automation, faster processing can be beneficial for every company looking to either save costs or do things faster and better. So I would think that any one of these items can help.
Yes, thank you. My name is Alec Miller. I'm the president of Ezra Canada, a company that I founded over 37 years ago. So in all the time that I've been in this, I see a lot of tech that's overlooked tends to be something with a very advanced use case that is not really being used. And for me, today, it's organization to organization collaboration. We're seeing a lot of people-to-people collaboration with things like Microsoft Teams or in the consumer space, Facebook. But when it comes to an organization sharing its database and sharing its transactions, that's not happening.
My name is Jason Cassidy. I'm the CEO of Shiny Docs Corporation. We provide massively scalable analytics, automation, and search to finally address the overwhelming problem of corporate document and file sprawl across geographies and systems. The thing that we're ignoring most often is the actual value that we're trying to achieve out of technology and an innovation. For example, we'll look at the recent advances in cryptocurrency, and there's a lot of people addressing Bitcoin right now, but they're looking at it in more complicated ways than it needs to be. The value that I perceive of this is the fact that my customer, if they're going to pay me $5 or $5 million, they can have that money to me within 5 minutes to 20 minutes, and there's no intermediaries for the transaction. There is no bank to say that you're not allowed to do that, and there's no government that says I'm going to scrutinize it. That is the true value of that technology, but we get so wrapped up in, well, should it be an investment or how should it be regulated in other ways that we forget about the simple thing that we're trying to achieve, and that is this instantaneous transactions so that we don't have banks babysitting millions of dollars for us for 4 days while we're waiting to get paid.
Thanks for that. The exponential growth in data we are witnessing has the potential to touch every business and every individual on the planet. Within 5 years, they're forecasting 50 billion smart connected devices in the world. Are we at the beginning of a digital revolution? And what are the significant opportunities for harnessing the data? I'm going to stay with you, Jason, and I'd love for you to start the conversation.
Thanks for starting with me, Bill. This really hits home to us because from a technology point of view, that we are all so focused on what bucket should I put this in? Should I put it in SharePoint, or should I put it in a bigger system like an OpenText or an IBM? Or can I get away with doing this or that? Which, back to the value conversation, is the wrong question. What do I need out of my data? Do I need it to align with my assets? Do I need it to align with my transactions? If I'm a legal firm, I need it to align with my particular matters and make it findable. There's nothing about those value conversations that says you got to put it over here versus over there. So data first, the data use should come first.
Yeah, I think this is such an amazing opportunity. And I'm actually going to share something that we are doing. We're actually collaborating with universities across the country. So we've got 4 universities across Canada. And what we've done is actually created the bucket where everybody puts their data. And everybody labels and throws their data into the same bucket. The power becomes the fact that now we have data from different sources all sitting in one spot that can now be integrated and work together with. So example, we can take energy systems with home automation systems, with healthcare devices. We can mash all that data up. People can read it from one spot, and the possibilities become endless. The key to this, though, all is that can people collaborate, share a data set, label it in a meaningful way, apply machine learning and AI, and then the world opens up.
It's incredible how fast data is growing, and as you point out, the Internet of Things and the sensor network more generally is producing data at a rate that's just nothing short of mind-boggling. When I started in this business almost 50 years ago, as barely out of my teens, I was a surveyor, and it took us like a day or two to collect 1 point, one XY coordinate at 1 point. And now we're streaming them in at 1 hertz from millions and millions of vehicles. We're collecting billions per second. So the growth has been nothing short of astounding. But that said, I think we're just at the end of the beginning. We're now reaching the point where there's going to be liftoff.
There's been a lot of talk recently about artificial intelligence, and some have even suggested that AI will power the 4th industrial revolution and really bring about the same kind of change that we saw with the invention of the computer. I guess my question for all of you is, do you agree with that? And where do you believe are the immediate opportunities in AI?
What are the things that we cannot deal with today, like climate change or economic change or social change? It's too big for us to understand. So I think we'll see AI applied to wicked problems that we can't solve today, even slowly. The climate is changing faster than we can even track it or model it. So I think that's the real value of AI.
It's going to be just the ability for the things that we want to do to go way faster. The problems that we can't solve right now with our current computing power, with our pencils and with our minds, we don't have to go out on site like Alec used to do. Now we have the rapid digital transformation of intake of data, and we have the systems that can now make inferences on the data, not just calculations, and then act on those inferences. So that's what I see it as. It's like the bicycle for the brain. It's just going to make the things that we want to do go way faster, and I certainly don't fear it.
Right now, in terms of immediate opportunities, it's really about automation. I think Alex and Jason just touched upon some of that stuff, but the automation portion of what companies deal with from a manual work effort is quite high. We see it day to day, right? And so as AI comes into play, the more that we can take out that repetitive step-by-step process that people do today is going to be beneficial.
The place where I think we're deficient right now is actually thinking strategically. Like the worst thing you can do with AI is look at it from one single problem perspective versus how do I create the structures that enable? Because it's literally limitless. So if you start from the understanding that you're trying to create something that's limitless versus I'm looking at one specific scenario and you start to design to that. So I still think there's a long way to go in terms of where to store data, how to classify data, how to unify data, how to bring different things together. Because the more pieces we bring together, the more powerful the outcome. But the key to it is there has to be a strategy, and it has to be a thought out approach, and there has to be the right infrastructure to have that enablement there.
As you all know, 5G cellular network technology promises to give us faster, smartest, absolutely more stable networking from a wireless perspective. What opportunities do you believe this innovation will drive? And Ted, maybe you can share some thoughts with us as a starting point for discussion.
Well, I'm going to say the good and the bad of 5G. The good for 5G is I think it becomes the absolute enabler of the smart community or the smart connected city. It's high bandwidth, it's low latency, it enables things that would not be possible without it. The downside of 5G is everybody thinks it's 5G is this magical, glorious transmitter at the top of the world and it's going to make all our lives hallelujah, but it's not. 5G actually requires twice as much infrastructure because it's using higher frequency. The distances are shorter. So you need twice the number of cellular antennas to be able to deliver 5G. Well, who's going to pay for that, right? And then I think the other side of 5G that people aren't aware of is that 5G doesn't like penetrating buildings. So all of a sudden we're going to start to have in-building cellular issues because it's not penetrating anymore. It wasn't really designed for that. So it's definitely an amazing change. Technology has got to play a big role in our future. At the same time, it is causing challenges, and there's huge infrastructure investments needed to make it a reality.
The overall understanding of how this will benefit still to be seen, right? I mean, we talk about personal consumer usage, but when we start talking about things like healthcare and the medical fields, maybe 5G is going to advance their technologies outputs quite dramatically. You might have a doctor that's out in Russia performing operations to someone in Canada, right? And with 5G, the ability to handle that and speed and the non-buffering that they call it in terms of video quality is going to be there, right? And that's the expectation. That's what's exciting for me.
Today, there are chatbots with natural language programming that can take your dinner reservations. I'm sure some of you have devices at home like Siri or Alexa that can serve up your favorite podcasts or answer the most difficult Trivia Pursuit question in an instant. Do you see a growing opportunity for voice in the workplace? Jason, I would appreciate if you would kick off the discussion by sharing your view on this.
Where it helps us a lot is, for example, in the collection of information. We have more phone calls now, we have more video generated, we have more calls like this over various platforms, and capturing that information is often extremely important. In fact, sometimes it's either life or death or a very big legal issue in order to make sure that we know what was communicated, what was agreed to during that conversation. And that's where I really like the proliferation of natural language right now, because it allows the speech to text in a context like this. It is contextual. So I'll know exactly what Robert said. I'll know exactly what Ted said. I know what Jason said at any particular time. And then we can go on and use information mining tools like ShinyDocs and others to go off and find that information, classify it, make it available to the right people at the right time, and then layer on things like PI, personal identifiable information capture, GDPR compliance, Digital Privacy Act, all that type of thing can now work on these multiple medias that would have been kind of unthinkable had we had this volume of media data 10 years ago, but we didn't have this same type of natural language technology. It would be unthinkable as to how we do that. So all that data would be lost. Now we're in a wonderful spot where it can be captured, well understood, and disposed of at the right time according to policy and legislation as well.
As natural language improves, I don't need somebody who knows, some kind of arcane query language and some complicated analytical functions to do something that I know the stuff is sitting in a database and I can just ask, tell me, oh great machine, what I can do.
Yeah, it's a cool technology. It has its place. But if you look at the younger generation that's actually going to be moving into the communities, they all shut them off. A lot of people don't want to be listened to. So the privacy issue is still a really big one. It's just like facial recognition is cool, but so much controversy, we don't even bother trying to put it in a building. So yeah, a lot of capability, a lot of possibility, but in most cases, people don't want something listening to them. So I think even within the workplace, people aren't going to be comfortable with it. So I don't want to throw it out because obviously there's a lot of possibility and capability, but no one's mentioned the privacy issue, and the privacy issue is real. Like by default, we don't include it. By default, people always have a choice when it comes to our system.
I know it's come up a couple times here about remote work and so on, and the pandemic certainly at Ingram has shown that we can live and work anywhere. Now, is that really a true statement, or does it just apply to knowledge workers? Where do you believe there are opportunities? Perhaps, Ted, you can start us off by sharing your view on work from home and remote work technology?
I mean, again, I don't think there's one right answer. And I think the hybrid world, working completely remotely, it's not the answer. People are going nuts. It's not efficient in a lot of ways. It's efficient in some ways. If you have dedicated work you need to do, great to be at home for the day and get it done. But when collaborating with team members, it doesn't work. Overall, I think we're probably going to snap back pretty close to where we were before. We're social beings. We weren't meant to be isolated.
The part that I found very powerful is we used to live in a world where you could never really do $1 million plus deal with an enterprise organization without a flight and a handshake and in building that type of in-person relationship. It's not schmoozing, it's just building real human trust. And we have found ways of doing that over the last year. And we've conducted a few big deals that didn't require flying. And you supplement it with using different techniques and still trying to build human relationships. So I think some of the point that the people here are making is that not a lot of people want to either go back to work 100% or want to stay home 100%. So it is going to be a hybrid world going forward. But the fact that we've learned how to conduct ourselves, build trust over a distributed connection like this is pretty powerful. So I think that that's just something that would have never happened without the pandemic. And I'm thankful for it. And I hope that we can keep doing that in the future because it's just more effective and it allows you to build some real relationship without having to spend a lot of money on travel and take on personal risk that way.
Companies really need to invest in the infrastructure and the security practices because of this, right? The more investment that's there to allow users to work remote or do things remotely, needs to be in place. Accessing corporate networks, accessing corporate email. That infrastructure has to have some spend and some investment made to that. Security, even more so. I think all the security practices and the security tool sets to prevent cyber attacks that have been happening throughout this pandemic and throughout many years, that also needs to be factored in as well, right? And so they no longer have the protection while working remote of a corporate network. And so all those practices and tool sets that they need to invest in needs to be put into where they are at.
Well, I want to thank everyone on the panel. I think everyone heard it clearly. Rather than viewing digital disruption as worrisome and challenging, embrace the uncertainty and potential that advances in new technology, data analytics, and artificial intelligence will bring. The pressure to innovate amid technological progress poses an opportunity for us all to rethink the work that we do and the way that we do it. The question for you is, are you prepared? Back to you, Corinne.